Muy buenos días a todos. ¿Cómo están? Estamos recién iniciando este webinar. Veo que nos están mandando mensajes, que nos están visitando de otras partes, además de Jalisco, que incluye la Ciudad de México, Morelia, Michoacán, desde Pachuca, Hidalgo, de la Universidad de Guadalajara, de la maestría en gestión y políticas de educación superior, de Hermosillo, Sonora. Muy bien, vienen obviamente del Consulado de Israel, de Celaya, Guanajuato. Bienvenidos a todos, muchas gracias. Es justo saber que hay personas de de muchas ciudades, de Autlán de Navarro. Bueno, and I am going to begin this webinar. Welcome everyone. My name is Nadia Mireles. I am the General Director of the Plataforma Abierta de Innovación, Open Platform for Innovation. I am very glad today to be hosting and presenting the webinar Startups in the Post-COVID Crisis, Preparing for the Day After. I am going to talk a little bit about Israel and Mexico. We know that Israel and Mexico hold a bilateral relationship of almost 70 years, so we are very happy for this webinar. Israel is an international leader in science and technology, as it is worldwide known as a country with a high culture of startups, entrepreneurship, and innovation. For example, Israel was a country where the USB memory stick was invented. Also, Israel developed the first PC processor. And also they created the floating solar panels. So as you can see, well, Israel has a long way to in the context of innovation. So we're very happy today to be having this webinar that was conducted and was possible due to the work of the International Relations Office of the Governor. Thank you, Monica Sanchez, for that. And well, also I would like to introduce and then I will leave the microphone to the ambassador, but I will give a brief introduction to the Professor Dafna Kariv. She is the department chair of entrepreneurship and innovation and the founding chair of NOVUS, the Center of Entrepreneurship of the School of Business at Rishon LeZion, Israel. Sorry if I spell it a little different. Dafna is a professor at the HEC at Montreal, Canada. It's the School of Haute Etudes, of high studies, and is also the author of 5 academic books that talk about entrepreneurship, entrepreneurial performance, entrepreneurial education, and gender. She has been a recipient of several prizes from the European Commission funds, and Professor Kariv also is very involved in mentoring startups and has created a program on how to develop incubators and accelerators. So I think her knowledge will be really relevant for this session. We know that due to the COVID, many startups have been forced to make a lot of changes and decisions in their strategies to continue to work. So today, the Professor Kariv will help us with that. I think that her knowledge will be very, very good to apply here. In the first part, in the first hour of this webinar, she will provide some lectures, some of her knowledge, and she will share with us all what she has learned before. And then in the second part, she will provide some practical exercises. And this will be more like a workshop. So because she told us that it's very important for the startups to not only listen, but also to apply and to implement this knowledge. So thank you again, Professor Dafna, to share with us your incredible knowledge. And without any other introduction, I will pass the microphone so that the ambassador of Israel in Mexico can give us some words also. Professor Zvi Tal, I hope I said it right. And thank you again, Ambassador, for also this help. And we're very, very happy to continue the collaboration between Mexico, specifically Jalisco, and Israel.
Muy buen día, Nadia, and thank you for your pertinent words of introduction. I think that after this session, I will offer you a position at the Israeli embassy because you were so eloquent in describing the good relations between both our countries, between Israel and Jalisco, and telling us about the innovative Israeli mind. So thank you very much. Muy buen día a todos de la Ciudad de México. I really rejoice this morning at the partnership with PLAI and with the state of Jalisco, which I had the opportunity to visit at the end of January. And thanks to the good offices of Mrs. Monica Sanchez, we have started this joint venture, which I'm convinced is only one among many. SMEs, small and medium enterprises, are the backbone of your economy, of our economy. Startups are the engine for innovation and entrepreneurship. And this is why it's so opportune for us to address the issue of the adaptation of SMEs and startups in the post-COVID era. I would like to thank Professor Dafna Kariv for having approached us through our colleagues at the Economic Division in the Foreign Ministry in Jerusalem with her concept, her expertise, her experience. We have had already a first taste of her insights, and I'm really thrilled, and I'm sure that this session will be beneficial for all the stakeholders that are participating this morning. So again, muchas gracias a todos, suerte.
Hi, so hello everybody. Thank you very much for the welcoming words. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I'm really very, very excited. We have so many people here. I wish I could see you, talk to you, discuss so many things that I'm sure we have in common, but maybe next time. Okay. So let's start. So we start by sharing with you very briefly the goals of this webinar. It's very important to understand that in 1 hour or 45 minutes, we cannot embrace everything, even though we want to. But it's very important for me to emphasize the keeping the startup in motion. I mean, the dynamic to continue everything and not to cease the activity. This is one goal which is very important, and hopefully, including the is going to address to you. We are going to maybe inspire you in this sense. Then exploiting new opportunities, it's very, very important, and we are going to discuss it. Preparing for the day after, which is very important because of the first point, we need to pay the platform for a competitive advantage, and I will explain in depth each one of them. I would like to start by a quote that was published 2 or 3 weeks ago by the WEF, which is the World Economic Forum. It's the biggest forum worldwide. And they said that the businesses that invest right now in strategic, operational, and financial resilience to emerging global risk will be better positioned to respond. I really believe in that, and I support that, and I advocate it, and I'm sure that we can discuss it more profoundly. Thank you very much, Nadia, for giving a brief introduction about myself. So I'm going to skip it and get back to the webinar's agenda. So we are going today discuss. This is the agenda. I'm going to go very briefly on the effects of the COVID-19 on startups, and then get very briefly, I mean not briefly in this time, but very quickly, but in depth, to a three-faceted model that I've developed for the day after. Actually, I'm going to write a book about that as well, and we'll see how we can prepare ourselves both to navigate now and then to prepare ourselves for the day after. So if we look at the a general look on the COVID-19's effect on the global. So if we look at a general look on what's the effects of the COVID-19 on generally on the markets. So we see, I would say the most emerging thing that we see here is panics in the financial markets, in buying both households, but also SMEs and startups and governmental bodies and so forth. Therefore, we have some concerns about supply shortages. Not necessarily it's happening, but we are concerned about that. There is an unemployment rate that is augmenting, and I will address it later on, what exactly can we do and how it is affecting us. In terms of the VCs, it's very, very interesting. And for those that are listening now, and you are in a process or planning a process of attracting some venture capital companies. So this is something that is really, really interesting and very pragmatic, I would say. Venture capital companies nowadays I would say are sorted into three types. One type would be those that are really very intensively looking for startups that are directly trying to find solutions for the disease itself, for the virus itself. So this is one type. The other type would be VCs company that are looking for startups that are indirectly trying to find either solutions or anything that is related, but it is related to the crisis, but not necessarily to the disease itself, to the virus itself. So it might be remoted communication as we do now. It might be anything that has to do with gamification, databases, and so forth. But the most part of the VC companies, around 65–70% of them, are now very passive, are now looking for the opportunities passively. They are just managing the portfolio, the existing portfolio, but they are not scouting proactively as they have done. And this is a very good opportunity for you startups to reach out for them. So this is something that we will go through and in depth afterwards. If we look at the COVID-19 effect on the startups, so we have the bad news and the good news. Bad news, we know about them. So we have startups are complaining about declining investments. Startups are complaining in terms of difficulties in liquidity. They need to have many layoffs, and this is very, very problematic because most of the people that are laid off from startups are those that are more specialized because they cost more money and the startups cannot afford it. So they ask them to, they temporarily ask them to be laid off, but there, the big companies, they found an opportunity. They found an opportunity to attract those skilled people coming from the startups, but they are not working now, at least temporarily. And the big companies are trying to hire them now when they are eager, the employees, the laid off ones, they are eager to have another place to work, and they don't have now any salaries. So this is a very good opportunity for the big companies, which means that for startups, maybe later on, if they want to re-attract their specialists, maybe they will not be available anymore. And there are some other negative impacts of the COVID-19 on startups. But, and this is something that I want to focus on, there are very good news also. And actually this session is about the good news. And this is not by accident that I chose those three companies, Netflix, Zoom, and Walt. So what are the good news? We see in some sectors that startups are prospering. So of course, in medical device, in technology, digital health, diagnostics, sure, but also in education, in gamification, in home sports, and many other things. So this is one thing that is very important. The other thing that is very important is that financial support for some sectors has boomed, as I said before. So we see now that there are different sources. Actually, the scope of sources for financing startups has expanded dramatically for those startups that are, as I said before, working to find solutions for any types of needs and gaps that occurred during the COVID-19. So of course, for the, as I said, for the pandemic itself, but not only in the medical area, but also in other areas as well. And why it is important? Because I call it a foot in the door. So now when we know that several sources like government-based, world organization, large companies, the richest fund like Bill Gates and his wife and so forth, they are very eager now to invest and even to donate. So when we come to the day after, we know that they have, as we say in Hebrew, they have large pockets, which means they can support. So now they're trying to support, or they are targeting to support those that are trying to find solutions for the pandemic. But after everything comes back to normal, we know that there are sources that we can at least attract or try to reach out for them. For example, deliveries. For example, the alcohol, the hygiene. For example, anything that has to do with indoor sports and many other things. So this is really reassuring. We also see here, and it's very interesting, that the moods of startups is still very, very high. So nobody is depressed now, and people are hopeful, and they don't do too much dramatic changes in marketing, in business development, and so forth. And why? Why is that? So my idea is, and actually I've researched about that, and I figured out that startups are not only negatively affected by the coronavirus, but they are also very fortunate to be startups, to be this sector while there is this crisis. I mean, nobody wants this crisis, but still, since we have it already, so it's much better to be a startup rather than to be anything else, including a big company. And why? Because startups are really agile and they're ready to pivot. So for them, that's okay, that's natural to pivot. They don't have so much to lose because most of the startups, they are nascent startups, they are in their first or initial steps of development, so they don't have so much to lose like the big companies, for example. They have an entrepreneurial mindset and vibe, but I would say that the most important thing is written here in bold, because startups are born initially into crisis and frustration. They start by an idea, but they don't find any technology that can suit the idea. And then they find this technology that is maybe aligned with their ideas, but they don't find the people to do that. And then the people cost a lot of money, so they're trying to attract some investments, but they don't find investors, and they are always like a roller coaster, always in crisis. So for them to have another crisis, this is something that they are used to, and this is something in their flow of their development. So they are much better equipped than any other sector to navigate into this crisis. I would like to start by showing you a very interesting startup. Actually, I'm very connected to this startup because it has been incubated in my incubator, an incubator that I started 7 years ago. And this startup is actually targeted for children in India. And the idea was very interesting. They took a plastic container which could transform air into water. I mean, this is not a patent. This is, we know about that, of course. When you put a plastic container in a humid place or a sunny place, then of course, air turns into water. But they have also added a smart device which enables to measure the hand of the children and then to put the right dose of soap and water, which is measuring and very related to, I mean, that it's the right dose of those soap and water, so it can protect the environment and of course can keep the hygiene of the kids. So this is how it started. And the business model was through associations that were concerned about the hygiene of kids in India, and that's what it was. But now, when we understand that most of the infection could be prevented by just washing the hands, so you can see what they have done here, and actually they have been announced by the Forbes as one of the 80 Israeli medtech companies that fight against the COVID-19. I would like to show you a little interview with Max. So for this purpose, we need to take off.
It's called Soapy, a smart hygiene device designed to change the way people wash their hands.
We're giving you the right environment to wash your hands and the right technology to do it. We're giving you feedback on how your hand washing practice was.
CEO Max Simonovsky helped start Soapy 2 years ago, focusing on India and other developing countries. Then word started spreading.
We suddenly started to receive inquiries from the developed countries like US and Canada and England.
The COVID-19 crisis led to even more interest, with 136 countries calling about the product.
Majority of the, I would say, guidelines or advices about how to prevent yourself from being infected is about hygiene, sanitation, and social distance. And hand hygiene is on the top.
This is the Soapy machine. When I put my hands in, it gives me just the right amount of soap that I need and gives me 20 seconds to lather my hands, making sure I get all the right movements, get in between my fingers, my nails, all the things I need to have clean hands. It's monitoring how well I've washed my hands and how well I'm rinsing my hands, and it gives me another 20 seconds worth of water to rinse them.
It is very important to understand that during the COVID-19, there are some, as I said, good news, because some of the startups and small companies and nascent entrepreneurs are pivoting and are exploiting opportunities so they can even be much more successful than they were or they expected to be. So prior to getting in depth into the three-faceted model, I have invited an entrepreneur, an Israeli entrepreneur. I hope, Tom, you're here. Let me see if Tom is here. Okay, great. So, so Tom is going to actually introduce himself. Tom, thank you very much for being here, an Israeli entrepreneur that has done an interesting pivot, because listen what happened. Thank you, Tom.
Okay, it's ready. It's good. So, hello everyone, and thank you, Dafna, for inviting me. My name is Tom Marmareli, and I'm from Israel, and I'm a triathlon coach which means I coach people outside, doing swimming and cycling and running all together. So I've been doing this for the past 13 years, and I myself am doing a lot of triathlons and competing in such events. So as you may wonder, all the training is done outside. So the whole fitness industry try to get inside and to do kind of Zoom meetings and workouts, but it's not the same as outside. So the first thing that I saw and realized is that many of my competitors did exactly that. I mean, they did some Zoom meetings in which they could talk to their clients and show them what they need to do. But I always thought that it's not the best way to do it, and but I had to do it because it was the quick solution. But as the time passed, I started working on the next level. I mean, the good solution of this this problem of fitness online, of working, of coaching online athletes from different kind of disciplines, like swimming. How do you coach someone to swim from a long distance? How do you coach someone to do cycling from a long distance? So of course there are many applications, but most of them lack a specific thing, which is the personal touch. So I mean, you can always do one-on-one, but can you do something that is more scalable? So personally, I thought that that it could be done, and I went out and learned all there is to learn about digital marketing mostly, which is pretty undiscovered in Israel, the fitness industry, or my personal niche, which is triathlon. And what I did was doing a few campaigns after I studied all the digital marketing of Facebook and you know, MailChimp and all this kind of stuff of digital marketing. So what I did is two main products. One of them is online coaching, which is almost definitely 100% self-service. I did a really huge, I call it a center of guidance, which has a lot of videos and content, which is then connected to hundreds of different training plans. And then the client gets into the system, and the training plan is connected to the guidance center. And then he can have a personalized, very personalized training. And with all the knowledge, he can do it from anywhere in the world, and also by phone or by anything. So after I learned all this digital marketing, I just set out to some campaigns in my personal niche, and in really cheap numbers, I managed to get thousands of leads, of them hundreds clients, and it was pretty quick, and it was very remarkable, I believe, in my small industry. The second thing I did is trying to coach people to swim without having the pool. So this is something really special. It involves a lot of theory, a lot of explaining, also with lots and lots of videos. And of course, it comes with a lot of text and exercises, and each exercise has a specific video. And I don't know yet if it worked, because the swimming pools only open right now in Israel, actually today. So I will be able to test if it was any of value, but it had a lot of good feedbacks. And of course, I tried to do something a little bit different. And overall, I always say, I mean, in the past 2 months, in the start of this all, it looked like, okay, I can do anything, and I'm going off business for the next few months. And the first thing I did is actually try to understand what I could do in this time, and to do it, also to have a good business for later, to continue and grow in different aspects which I did not have before that. So I sat down for 2 months and I created all this guidance center and all these training plans. It's hundreds of training plans. So I actually sat on the computer like a whole day long and worked on creating this. And I believe it is the future. I mean, certainly it worked pretty well in the Corona time, but you know, now everyone can go out, so we cannot know if it will be any good in these times. But I do believe that the whole world is going to maximize their time, to have maximal efficiency, to do the best they can do with their time, and of course with the minimum money. So that is my short story of the coronavirus times.
Thank you very much, Tom. Thank you very much. It's really inspirational, and you can see that you can enlarge and expand your niche and your audience. Now you can train people from Mexico as well, because you have everything digitalized. You could not think about that because your vision was in Israel and everything was targeted to Israel. But now the whole world is in front of your activities and your training. Thank you very much for coming and sharing your story. And we are going to get into the model. Thank you, Tom. Thank you. So I'm going to share again the model. This is the model that I want to discuss with you. So this is a faceted model. This is for startup, and I'm going to focus on those three faceted, on those three foci. One would be the business. So what can we do as a business, and focusing on the business during the time of coronavirus? The first focal point that I want to discuss with you is the business. What do you do? What do we do as startups and entrepreneurs and SMEs in terms of the business? How can we navigate the crisis? First thing that I would say for a business, very, very important, to locate your relevant strategic partners and try to reach out for them. I hear so many times during regular days, many startups would be very reluctant and very hesitant and would tell me, you know, I cannot reach out to this strategic partner because I'm too small, I don't have so much value and so forth. But nowadays, as I told you, VCs, the companies, but also the big companies and many other people are not, actually they are in a chaotic situation like startups are. And they are not in the front of the stage as they were. And they're also looking for those that are going to reach out for them. So this is a very good time for you as startups to just to list your strengths, to list your achievements, and to knock on doors. I mean, on Zoom doors, but to knock on doors and ask for meetings, e-meetings, and just try to attract partners. And I figured out that this goes very well now, and you can get to people that were unreachable or to companies that were unreachable just because it's a coronavirus time, it's hectic time, and everybody's in this uncertainty, so they would listen to you. Another thing that is very important is sharing your platforms or your activities. So, for example, one startup told me that they are making a very smart device for purchasing tickets for football games all over the world through an IoT and an AI, machine learning. So this entrepreneur told me, you know, I need to close my startup. And I said, why is that? And he said, because there are no football games anymore around the world. So I said, but do you have a platform for those purchases? He said, yes, of course. So I said, why not having this platform, just giving it pro bono for other companies? And they will be grateful for you. They will be thankful for you. And then when things come back to normal, they will be your customers. They will be your users. So rather than to seize all the activities of the platform, why not sharing it? I would like to show you a very interesting platform that has been shared. So I would like to share with you this company, which is very interesting.
Coast to coast, companies that offer online, telephone, or text health services are gearing up for a barrage of calls. Hi, how are you? Nice to see you. PlushCare is a subscription service connecting patients to doctors at 50 top medical schools. The company says virtual visits are up 30% since December. It's ramping up for more.
People are fearful. They are worried. Should they stock up on medicines? Should they be rushing out to buy masks? And we're trying to answer those questions as best we can.
According to Mercer's annual survey, telehealth was available to nearly 90% of employees of large companies last year, though fewer than 10% were using it. Coronavirus could change that.
I've been coughing all day.
It's more than an initial consult with a physician. RealWear offers a wearable computer to connect healthcare providers. But one distributor has sold out because of the uptick in demand amid coronavirus. And researchers can collaborate on 3D models using Athos Beam telepresence.
The idea here is to leverage, to see what we can do, and then to leverage it. And you saw that from a business. So from a platform that they had only worked on prescriptions, now they have enlarged everything, their activities and their services, in a way that some of those are provided for free. But this is both for keeping the medical, I would say, the medical relationship with the doctors, but also just business-wise, in order to be prepared for the day after. Other things that are very, very important would be to digitalize your business activities. Many, many activities, like in the case of Tom, were very dependent on a face-to-face, on something that is really a physical platform. But this is a very good time now to digitalize everything. We have seen that even universities have digitalized everything. Any kind of conferences, meetings, webinars, everything is digitalized. Anything that has to do with payment and so forth. So this is a good time to do that. Also, something that entrepreneurs don't like to do, but this is a good opportunity to do it, is to reevaluate everything in terms of priorities, everything in terms of neglected processes. So why not reorganizing your business now? Of course, there are many other points, but I'm trying to emphasize the main ones. The other thing that is very important in this three-faceted model would be the entrepreneur, you, the entrepreneur. And I'm going to address two, I would say, two focal points. So one would be in terms of your professionality. It's very important when everybody is locked down, when everybody is still trying to have those distances, social distances, and things are not back to normal yet. So it's a good time to take classes, to gain more knowledge, even to get a mentor. Many of the startups that I'm working with would tell me, I cannot get a mentor because I don't have the money now. And I would say, so barter. You have things to give, to provide, and then you gain something. It's very, very important. Also, be creative, and I would like to show you very, very interesting examples. This person from a grocery store, he was very creative in order to gain to attract more people and to be more aligned with the needs of the people. So he collaborated with a nearby vegetable store, and they opened a stand of this vegetable store in his grocery. And then they provided products that are in the format of a doing-yourself. So people would take whatever they want, but in small amounts, and just prepare for themselves their meals. Of course, deliveries were provided for free. So then he attracted more users. He pivoted a bit, but he just scaled up, and it's very interesting. He could exploit opportunities. Another interesting example is this local toy shop nobody came to the shop, but people who do need games and do need toys for the kids that are also locked up. So they have digitalized the shop. They have fastened their deliveries. So rather than making the deliveries 1 week later on, it was on the same day. So this was something that they were really emphasizing. They have developed a direct connection with the customers. And actually, they have started new services like virtual art craft session, not only for the kids, but also for the parents. So now you can see the big smile of the owner. So it's very important to be creative and to see how we can blend and how we can make some collaborations. Be generous, be generous. You see here many examples of platforms, of softwares, of medication, web-based platforms that are given for free, including free training. So it seems to be not that, I would say, financial wise, but it is very financial, I would say, savvy, because it is preparing for the day after. So it's important to be generous nowadays for the day after. But you also have something that nobody talks about. It's your mindset. It's your resilience. You as entrepreneurs, you as startup owners, you're stressed now, you are in distress now, but you need to be more resilient. And how do we do that? First of all, as we say, we put it on the table. We say, yes, we are stressed now. And you must identify your strengths. You must understand that your strengths are your strengths. Even if there is a crisis outside, these are your strengths. So if you are a hard worker, a smart person, and an opportunity exploiter, this is who you are. And nobody would take it from you, even though there is a crisis outside. It's very important also to surround yourself with people that are positive people, that can enrich you, can empower you. And you have to get rid of those people that will be putting you down in terms of your, again, energies and vibes. You need to preserve your values and your vision for the day after. So you did not renounce them. It's just a hold. They are on hold now. And when things go back to normal, you will implement them. And also something that might seem to be a bit, I would say, mystical, but it's not. This is a great time for gratitude, for appreciation, and for thankfulness. And there is a research on neo-psychology and entrepreneurship that shows that those people that are thankful for models, for any inspirational models, they tend to be much more resilient, they tend to be much more focused, and they are much more successful as entrepreneurs. So it's important just to list for yourself those people that you can thank them. You don't need to do that, even though it's very nice to do that, but still you can just think about that, and this would make the impact. And network, don't stay by yourself, network, talk to people. So this would be for the entrepreneur. The third focal point, which is usually neglected, because when people are in crisis, so they first look at the business and then they look at themselves, but they forget about the ecosystem. But the ecosystem is very, very important. Actually, it's like the building blocks of your apartment. You have a very beautiful apartment, but you have the building blocks of the building, and this is the ecosystem. You cannot have an apartment without having a solid and robust building. So you need to participate, like you do now actually, in webinars, in meetings. Try to be acquainted with other people. Try to be valuable and contribute from your experience and knowledge. Be more social, get insights from the other. As I said before, in your ecosystem, you will find unapproachable stakeholders. So why not hooking them? They are also in an uncertainty at the moment, like you are. Actually, I have a very interesting and amusing example. One of my colleagues from another university just puts, he uploads every time in his social media some pictures of him teaching his students with the Israeli celebs. So I asked him, what's happening? I mean, how come that you have, that you can approach those unapproachable celebs? So he told me, well, Professor Kariv, they are really eager for that. Nobody approaches them now. They don't have, I mean, some of them are singers or artists or anything, but everything is on hold now. So they are really looking forward for us, for people, to attract them and to involve them in many activities. And this is a very, very good suggestion. Why not approaching those unapproachable stakeholders? They will be very happy about that. They will come back to the front of the stage, at least temporarily, through your reaching out for them. One thing that is also very important is to put everything on the social media. And Tom just discussed the power of the social media and the digital marketing. Anything extra that you do is important to put on the social media, because then you give a message for your users and your future users and future customers that you are still dynamic, you are still vivid, you have lots of ideas, you do good for the community. Try to volunteer, to put it on the social media as well. It's important to pave the platform for the day after. And also get involved in a community, or even start a community if you can do that. And I would like to finalize with those 8 practices for startup. These are general practices for startups. So it's not specifically for one industry or one sector or for a specific stage of development of a startup, but this is something more generic, which is very important. One thing, during crisis, try to operate in a lean model, in a lean structure. The second thing that is very important, but also very successful, is try to work on the cross-functional roles. So, for example, you may say to your employees that are more engaged in the marketing areas to be also engaged in the business development areas. And those from the financial areas would be more engaged in the HR areas as well. People would say that when they have those cross-functional roles in crisis times, it enables them to network, it enables them to understand much more in depth what the others in their startup, in the same organization are doing, and it's much more fun. We have some research showing that in regular time, it might be a bit, I would say, fuzzy, and might be a bit hectic, but in crisis time, it is something that is really functional. Another thing that you must do now, I know that entrepreneurs don't like to do it, is to outsource. And as I said before, many specialists from other startups are now laid off. I mean, they don't have any employment. So they would be very happy to help you. And they are specialists. So it's a good time to outsource. It's easier, it's feasible, it costs less money, and so forth. In terms of the remote work, make it easy and friendly, otherwise people will not engage. And also in terms of the interrupted workplace, because people are not stable in the workplace, and some people need to be locked and so forth, some other would need to take care of their children at home. So try not to look it as, or to consider it, or even to perceive those interruptions as something that is negative. Embrace it and try to see how you can leverage it and make other workflows, make other priorities be more flexible. Maybe it will be much more successful and much more aligned to what you were looking for and envisioning for your business, originally even. Try to prioritize your revenues in very short run, for the very short run, and you have to be very modest in terms of revenues to ensure liquidity. And something that is very, very important is to look for small successes, as we call them, small steps of successes. So all your contracts, all your business deals and everything should be in small scales. And then when things go back to normal, then you can get to implement your big visions and big dreams. So this is for the part that you are more passive and I'm more active. Nadia, maybe you can give me some instructions about how we get into the other part, or do we want first to collect some questions and then to get to the practical part?
Okay, at this moment, everybody can to take your microphone to turn on your microphones to tell to Dafna your questions, or if you have any recommendation on any comment, you can do it now. Okay, Dafna, Jose Robles is writing in the chat. I was wondering if you can detail share the file of the presentation.
Yeah, I will need to make some changes because it's a bit organized through my organization. So I'll make it much more coherent, and I will share it with you. I will send it to you so you can disseminate it. Okay, very good question. Thank you very much for asking. So actually is much more simpler than before, because usually we have this image about VCs that they are unapproachable. So they are very busy. They have so many startups that are trying to reach them and that are trying to attract them. So when you want to attract, or when you want even to make an appointment with a VC company, I would say prior to the coronavirus, then you would have to wait a long time. There is a big line. Nowadays, because they are in an uncertainty and they are also trying to look for the opportunities, and they are also scouting very intensively to understand what's going on and what would be the trends. This is a very time. So as I said, those companies are, because they are a bit passive at the moment, most of them, 65–70% of them are a bit passive now. They're just managing whatever they do, whatever they have in their portfolio already. So it's a good, for them, it would be easier if you could attract them. So they don't do anything now actively, but if you, as a startup, could just make an appointment through Zoom, ask them just to tell them about your achievements, about your strengths, about your vision. Prepare yourself for a pitch. Make some rehearsals with people that would give you some feedback, and then just tell them very directly, I'm interested to partner with you, Mr. VC, and this is what I do. The most odds would be that they would tell you, I'm interested to listen to you. Of course, the dynamics afterwards would be up to you and up to the VC. But you will not stay in the line like in normal days. And due to the Zoom and due to the fact that you don't have to take transportation and to get physically to be to get to a meeting, it makes it much easier. So you have both the uncertainty, then the passiveness, the temporary passiveness of some VCs at the moment. They are looking to see the opportunities, and then you just give them the opportunity, you provide them, you make it simpler for them to get an opportunity, rather for them to scout for you, then you are just giving them yourself with everything that you have done. And then you don't have to look for times and slots of times when they have meetings, because you have those Zoom calls. So this is a very good time to do that. And actually, another thing, many entrepreneurs would say that they are a bit, as I said, hesitant. So when you need to meet someone face to face, it's a bit, I would say, scary, a bit. But when you have, you know, the computer between you and them, it's much, much easier. You should try it. It makes it much, much easier, much more friendly. It's not a distant communication as we used to say about the Zoom and all the digitalized and remote communication. Somehow it's the opposite way around. So good luck with that, but do that. Try to do that and let me know if it worked well.
Thank you, Dafna. Well, Rafael Nuño have a question. Can you suggest some methods for faster reacting on innovation processes, going into testing, failing, focus, going to market?
I'm sorry, I couldn't understand. I couldn't hear well. It was interrupted. Is it written somewhere? It's written? No.
Yes, here's Rafael Nuño. I'm writing again via chat.
So, if I understand well the question, because it has several parts, I would recommend now to start testing things. This is a fantastic time to start testing things. And what do I mean by that? One of the startups, one of the people that I know, one of the entrepreneurs, he has a dream. He's in the media sector, but he has a dream to be at the high tech, the technology. So what he has done now, he just decided to do something, I would say, for the community, to do good for the community, pro bono. Everything is for free. And he's starting to build something that is more technological in order to test it. But he doesn't take any money now. So nobody would complain and nobody would tell, oh, this is a test, it's not so good. The POC is not what we were expecting to, and we had to pay you for money. No, he's doing everything for free, but he is actually empowering his own strengths and his own skills in the technological part. And then he will be trained and he will be equipped with the skills and with the experience when the day comes, when everything goes back to normal, to be part of a startup in the high-tech sector. So it's a good time not to take money, to do things for free, generously, as I said, and to test things, maybe something that with your platforms and with your whatever you do, but just to pivot it a bit so the community can make any type of use from your services for free, so that you can understand and touch and feel and then test and measure your services. You don't feel, I mean, you are responsible, but you don't feel that you need to excuse yourself because you didn't take any money. So yeah, this is the time for that, and I would suggest to do that now. I hope this is I have responded to your question, because it has different parts. Do we have other questions?
Yeah, my question and comments are related to logistics and the increase of logistics solutions during these days. Any comments or suggestions for logistics companies?
Well, this would need to understand more thoroughly what exactly are the needs, and actually the workshop that we will conduct in a few moments will address this as well. So I think that the first thing that you need to do is to list the things that are going wrong, but because of the coronavirus. And I will explain exactly what I mean. For example, one of the startups that I'm working with told me that they don't have customers anymore. That's it. They are doing something, again, a platform. It's a high-tech platform for e-conferences and e-meetings, and they don't have any people, any users anymore. And I said, well, how come? I mean, this is something really, yeah, very popular now. And I asked them, from when, what was the time that you felt that you don't have users, I mean, not the amount of users that you were expected. So they told me about November, December. I said, but in November, December, there were no crisis. There was still no crisis in Israel. So you cannot blame the crisis. What I'm saying here, that many of us, even in the high-tech logistic and any kind of sector, sometimes the crisis would be a coverage for us. And we would say, oh, this is because of the crisis. But we need to be very honest with ourselves and to see if those needs and those things logistically that are not working now, are they not working because of the crisis, or are there any things in any processes and activities and any procedures that were not working well prior to the crisis? So this would be the first thing to do before we get into the logistics themselves. And here, as I said, to be responsible and to be accountable, I need to understand more, you know, in depth, what is your startup doing, in order to give you some suggestions, because I wouldn't see some generous suggestion as useful for this type of question if I don't know exactly what this startup is doing. But try to make sure that the points that you raise, the difficulties, the needs, and the gaps are really directly aligned to the crisis and to the effects of the crisis. This would be the first step to do.
Thank you so much, Professor Dafna. Now, I don't know if we have time left for one more question, or going.
I'm here.
Okay, the last question is, in education, what opportunities exist?
Oh, okay. So it's a good question. Actually, one of my books, my latest book is on educating entrepreneurs. I didn't predict the crisis, of course, but I was looking for ways to educate each other, not only formally with teachers or professors and students or pupils, but to see how we can embrace everything together, how we can package everything together. So we have the formal and informal education simultaneously. And I think that now this is something that is really, really important, because we understand, I would say we have three main insights that most of the academic institutions are really emphasizing now, or highlighting now. First one is that it's very important to get in touch with the ecosystem, the whole ecosystem. We were very categorizing, we were categorizing everything. So there was the academic institutions and the governmental bodies, and then the industry and the public sector and so forth. But we understand now that we need to put everything together, and it's feasible to put everything together, because this would give value for the students and for anyone in the ecosystem, all the stakeholders. And it's very feasible because we have those digital communication systems. So this is one thing that is very important. The other thing that is very important is that we have to switch or pivot the contents. So there are very traditional contents in schools and universities that are not aligned with the modern life and with the needs. And now we understand it very clearly, because nobody expected the virus, and nobody expected the effects of the crisis, and nobody is equipped with the knowledge and content and structures and formats on how to cope with it. So we understand that we need to embrace now a different way of teaching our students in a way that they will be much more independent, much more agile. Taking exams and telling them this is right and this is wrong, this would be wrong, because we just educate them that there is one person that will tell you if you say something right or wrong. But that's not the truth, and that's not the reality. You would be the person to tell yourself or to tell the others if you're right or wrong. So this is the second thing that is very important. And the third thing that is very important is that we understand that we need to cross all boundaries. I mean, what's the logic of having courses only Israelis and only Mexicans and only Americans? We need to put the internationalization and globalization, which is spread all over, is not spread in, it is not popular in the education, but it should, because everything is very global. So this would be a third point that must be really implemented as well.
Thank you, Professor Dafna. You're totally right. Now, do you want to pass to the next section of the webinar, the workshop?
If you don't have other questions, and if you have time and the energies, I have the time and energy.
Yeah, of course we do.
Happy to do that.
Okay, great. So, well, as you are the host, please give us the instructions of the next, and then make the groups. Thank you.
So, what I was thinking, I'm working a lot with startups and in Israel and all over the world. And I was thinking that just to listen to me would be one part of understanding what we can do and how we can navigate. But why not sharing in a more formal way, in a flow, so that we can, you can meet each other and you can share whatever you encounter now in the crisis. And then you can also think about maybe some disruptive, innovative solutions. So it will be just a taste of what we could do if we had the whole day long. So it's a workshop, and I will share with you the model. So let me share it with you. Okay, here it is. I will explain first what we do, and then we are going to work. I hope you can see it. Do you? You can see it. Okay.
Yes, we do.
Very good. So here is what we are going to do. First, I'm going to ask you to take 5 minutes and to list 2 challenges that you or your business are encountering now, and it is directly connected to the virus. As I said before, we need to be very honest with ourselves. Something that due to the effects of a crisis, there is something going wrong with your business, either from the focus of the business, or you as an entrepreneur and your team, or you and the ecosystem. So based on the 3-faceted model. Then afterwards, I'm going to put you on random rooms, and you are going to have a group task, which will enable you to do 2 things. First, to network with the other. We have more than 100 people, so it's a very good opportunity, and you are far from each other. So, I mean, physically, so here you get closer. And I will ask you to share your challenges, and then to decide on 1 challenge for each group to work on. What does it mean? And this would be for 10 minutes. What does it mean to work on? It would mean to have a creative solution for 1 challenge. So we will not be able to work on all challenges of all of you in the group, of all the members in the group, but we will take 1 as an example and as a way for you to open your mind, to think more creatively, more destructively, which is very important for crisis times. So when you are in the room, I will ask you to address the challenge that your group and you have decided upon, and to take 3 minutes to write down individually a dramatic way, a disruptive way, an innovative way to tackle this challenge, even if it's not feasible, just to write it down. And then when you are grouped again, each one of you shares your disruptive idea on how to provide solution for the challenge. And then you need to combine some of them and to make a package of several disruptive, innovative ideas and to make it as a good idea. And then finally, we are going to share it. Usually it's very fun, and I'm sure it will be very fun here as well. I hope you want to embark in. I'm very happy to do that with you. So we can start. There is another part that I would really encourage you to do. I know we are out of time, so we cannot do it this time, but this would be something to bear in mind. So you have shared your challenges, and I have visited some of the rooms. I couldn't visit all of them because in some of them I had longer talks, but it was very, very interesting. And I figured out that you actually share many challenges that are very similar to each other, which means that all of you were 120 in one point. You are a community, you are an ecosystem, a very robust ecosystem that has the same interests, the same challenges, the same difficulties. So one thing that I would suggest you is to think about a very disruptive way to I would say, in terms of thinking about that, not specifically in terms of implementing it as a solution, but just to think differently. For example, in the last room that we had, one question was, what are we going to do with the remote education? I mean, not all the students and not all the pupils, they have at home computers. And one of the things that we were raised there and discussed is that maybe the concept of homework is not relevant anymore. And everything, all the assignments should be in school. So this is a bit disruptive, but I encourage you to think in this way, not necessarily, as I said, to operate everything and to implement it, but at least to think openly. And then when you have this amazing ecosystem that you are all here in, with those amazing organizers, both the ambassador and the team of the embassy, and the people from the Jalisco, sorry, I don't say it well, sorry for my pronunciation, but the amazing organizers that we work together. So everybody that is a member of this ecosystem can really profit from it, can really get the support, get the, in terms of thinking together, in terms of meeting together, in terms of absorbing whatever the others have to give you. And so it's a wonderful opportunity for you. And I think that you need to think differently in order to see how you can afterwards implement it. So as concluding remarks, I would like to thank you again, all of you, the participants, and of course, as I said before, the organizers. I have the feeling that it took only 1 minute. You know, you can never measure time when you have fun. I would love to meet all of you in person to brainstorm about your startups, about the difficulties, the challenges, and even the scale up and the opportunities. I wish I could do that, but we just tasted something that might make maybe an inspiration or a contribution and a value for you. So thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Professor, really for your insights and all these tools that you have gave us today. We really deeply thank you for your presentation and your time invested in this dynamic. And also we would like to thank Vital, our friend now, the ambassador of Israel in Mexico, who had this initiative to carry out this activity. I'm sure the alternatives discussed through these sessions will have a positive impact on the startups, on our small and medium companies here in Jalisco. And for all the participants, if you are interested in a separate mentoring session for your startup, led by Professor Kariv and her very experienced team of experts, we will put in the chat the format and the link that you can fill if you want to have a direct relationship with Professor Kariv. Thank you so much. for everyone, for apply, all the people involved to make come through this project. So furthermore, thank you. Have a good day, everyone. Good afternoon, evening in Israel. Thank you, Ambassador. Thank you, everyone.